Hello and welcome to the Property Talk podcast from RW Invest, bringing you tips and advice on all things property investment.
Liverpool is a rapidly changing and growing city. The transformation of the city centre and the surrounding areas over the past decade has been monumental. But what will the next decade hold for the city, particularly towards the north, which is seeing the maximum attention, which is exactly where a few of our projects are. There is a huge number of extensive and complex development projects set to fundamentally change Liverpool over the coming years. So what do you think is bringing on that change?
One of the most interesting elements for me is if you look at Liverpool as a city on a map. So you look at the city, you've got the centre, which has obviously been massive regeneration over the years. The east of the city, you've got like the hospital, the Knowledge Quarter, etc. The south has already been regenerated already. And obviously to the west, everyone knows you've got the River Mersey as well. So the natural progression of when you look at the Liverpool city centre on a map geographically has to be north. It makes a lot of sense to build northwards, and that's where the massive potential for growth in Liverpool city centre is at the moment. And that's obviously why the likes of Peel Holdings, you know, one of the largest property groups in the whole of the UK, that's why they've bought the whole of the North Liverpool waterfront. You know, these are really experienced people responsible for the Media City development in Manchester. Everyone knows the success of that, and now £5.5 billion going into the north of the Liverpool waterfront is going to be a massive thing for that area.
I think it's the largest planning permission ever granted in the UK, period, isn't it?
The whole of the UK.
Yeah, and because they are so prevalent in taking nobody thought years ago areas like Salford Quays and Media City were going to have such a massive impact on that Manchester market, and they do take previously neglected areas, but with investment, you want to go and buy where there's shopping carts and tyres and all sorts. You know, if you know what is happening in that city and you know what's happening in that area, and you're ahead of that game and you're ahead of the curve, these are the areas that you want to buy.
Yeah, you mentioned the curve there. That's something I always discuss, is if you imagine a development curve, really you want to be investing in a part of the city at the start of its journey.
Exactly.
You know, there's no point in coming in when it's at its peak, and the only way is either to flatten out or go downwards. You want to really be coming at the start of the journey when all that money's planned, as you say, when all that investment is around the corner in the next 5 years, and that's where you're going to see the major growth, isn't it?
I think if you were to pick up like one of our projects there called City Residence, actually a phase 2 of a previously successful phase 1, if just like your personal opinion, if you were to pick up City Residences now in its off plan stages and put it, for instance, in the south of the city in Baltic Triangle, how much are those apartments going to be worth?
Well, a one bedroom in the south or the centre, you're talking 145 thousand pounds, I'd say.
Yeah, and then what city terraces is what?
104,000 to start with, the starting price, 104,950.
Same size apartments
as
well.
Yeah, same size, just in a different area.
And what the growth? I mean, buying off plan anyway, what you're going to make 10% upon completion because of the growth, and then what do you reckon over the? What's the JLL report?
Well, if you look at Jones Lang LaSalle, they're like the largest investment management strategist in the whole of the UK. You know, they go all around the country. They've looked at Manchester, looked at Leeds before. They're now predicting 22% over the next 4 years in Liverpool. So again, you apply that simple rule of thumb. You can imagine those apartments from 107 picking them up now being worth 130. And
it's over a quarter. You're making over a quarter in what you actually paid, not even including the off-plan discount that you're originally getting.
And I actually think that's quite reasonable as well. I mean, if you look at case studies, like, you know, we spoke about the Liverpool Water Scheme, Everton Football Club, you know, they're getting on board, they're building the new stadium, £500 million stadium in that exact area. If you look at case studies like the Etihad Stadium in Manchester, that's double prices. So we're not talking about 24%, we're talking about double here.
Absolutely. Was it M11? M11,
yeah, that's double prices in the M11 postcode. You look at the Olympic Village in East London as well, that's increased prices massively. So there's case studies there that it's not just theory.
Yeah, it's not pie in the sky.
Exactly,
it's happened.
It's happened,
I think with Bramley Moor Dock, with with the Everton Football Club stadium, and also the regeneration of Anfield as well. I mean, Anfield, I think they're putting even more money in now. It looks smart as you like now, but they're putting more money in. And I think it can only, the amount, it's not just going to be a football stadium, there's everything else there as well. It's entertainment, it's leisure, it's jobs. I mean, as a company, when we do conduct our own due diligence, it's not just about, oh, this looks really pretty, let's sell that. We all know, working for the company, it goes much deeper than that. It takes sometimes a year and a half to actually get to the launch stage, because our due diligence is so important to us. I know we've talked about due diligence on the podcast before, but I think it is really important to mention again that it's not about would the developers coming to us and going, would you like to sell this? No, it's about the comparables. It's about what you're building where. It's about where your tenant's going to come from. What is the future sustainability? How are you going to avoid the void periods? To RW Invest, before it even gets to those investors' ears, we have a huge checklist that we have to tick off in order for that investment to work. How long is the Liverpool Waters project? Is it like 15 years?
Yeah, it's going to be a long-term plan, 10 to 15 years, I think. Yeah.
So there's going to be constant influx of tenants, of workers. It's absolutely going to work.
Yeah.
You've got other regen projects up there as well. What's the one with Sainsbury's?
You've got the Project Jennifer. Yeah. Project Jennifer, that's the largest Sainsbury's in the UK, I believe. And that's only into phase 1 at the moment. You've got, at the moment, obviously the largest Sainsbury's, sort of pharmacies, Domino's, things like that.
Gym.
Petrol stations, McDonald's. And then obviously round the corner next year, you've got a few more retail outlets coming.
Oh, they're doing a phase 2, aren't they?
Phase 2, yeah. So you've got Zara, H&M, River Island, these sort of projects,
No, I'm excited. I never knew. I literally never knew what shops were going in there.
Some vouchers for Christmas.
But I think it is important, and a lot of investors have asked me, the ones that actually do think about local facilities, how important that is to a tenant. You don't want to be getting in your car for a pint of milk and driving 20 minutes. Also part of what we do. You can actually walk, within the north of the city centre where some of our projects are. And it is just growing and growing and growing and growing. So like we mentioned before, to get ahead of that curve is so important. When you put in 100, we understand as investment consultants, it's not all about selling property. If somebody comes to us with £45,000, which we very much appreciate, that is a lot of money. Somebody could have saved up. Don't get me wrong, we have investors that come in, I've got £400,000 cash, what should I do with it? Which is fantastic. But to me, it's more important when you get somebody who's saved up £50,000 and they want to put it in the best possible place, and we're like, oh my God, city centre north, you only need £27,000 to get it off the blocks. Another 20 something £1,000 at the end of September. But we know that your every single penny is important, and this is what I say to my investors. I will look after it. I will take it seriously. You are going to end up with something that's going to be phenomenal, because the areas we pay so much attention to the demographics and the areas and the growth and all of that stuff. So I think city centre north, absolutely.
Yeah. If you can get a development where, an investment where the financials and the payment structures work for you, then, I mean, if you can get something on a 20% exchange and a 20% stage payment, there's a lot of developments whereby overall you're putting 50% in on either, usually on a 35% on exchange and then 15% stage payments. But if you're looking at something on 20% on exchange and then you've got 7-8 months to prepare yourself for the second 20% payments, for the second 20% stage payment, that just makes cash flow so much easier.
And you might not even have it in the beginning, but you absolutely know with absolute conviction that you are going to have it at the end of September, October is perfect. But with I know a lot of people also ask that, the capital appreciation's there, that's brilliant. But obviously capital appreciation goes hand in hand with rentals, doesn't it? So how does that figure out? Does it stack up better than it does in the south of the city? What do you think?
Well, for me, the capital growth, that's where the real wealth is created in a property investment. So that should always be on the radar for you.
You're a landlord, aren't you?
I am, I am,
I just remembered.
I'm a landlord myself, and that was for me one thing that was the main attraction for me is the capital growth. That's where the real wealth is created over a 20-30 year period. But at the same time, obviously, you want to get the fruits of your labour. You don't want to work, save money, invest it, and then not see it in the 20 years. You've still got to be seeing that 7% rental yield at least coming in, 7% rental yield, so you can get a nice, say, £450 per month after all fees cash flow.
Yeah.
And then that money can just snowball. It can save for your next deposit.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you're off.
Because you're never going to have, like, I know you're the landlord of Ready Properties, and you know it does have its own challenges sometimes, but I think when if something happens with the heating or the electrics or the roof or whatever, but because we are off plan, of course it doesn't take a genius to know it's not immediate gratification. You do have to wait for that project to be built. We all know in life how quickly a year or a year and a half goes. So I think investors that sometimes are like, oh, well, you have to wait. Yeah, but look what you are waiting for.
Yeah,
look what you end up with. You know, what you've just said, when we do our financial forecasts and you take away the service charges, ground rent, management fees, blah, blah, you know that what you are netting, that's not going to go anywhere else but in your pocket, because you've got a brand new property, state of the art, all the mod cons, fully managed, 10-year build warranty. Nothing is going to happen to that. That money is yours to, like you just said, do what you want with it.
Yeah.
You know, go to Barbados, put it in the pot, put it in the pot. Where are we going?
Buy some new shoes.
Buy some new shoes, come back to match. So yeah, I think it just stacks up really well. Selling prices against what risk and reward, isn't it? What you're putting in, what you're getting out, and what the growth is and what the returns are. So I think the north of Liverpool, I think any investor that makes that decision to invest in the city centre North regeneration zone will never regret that decision.
Definitely not, no, definitely. And yeah, those cash flow forecasts, and they're also very, very reasonable. You know, we're not being too optimistic we're not saying 10%, 11%. Because whenever you see any sort of investment with 10 or 11%,
no, realistic.
You got to take it with a pinch of salt. You know,
like the collective investments.
Yeah, I mean, there's an old saying I learned a while ago in investment, is that if something seems too good to be true, it probably is.
All that glitters is not gold.
Exactly. So if you're seeing something with 10, 11% rental yields, you know, you just ask yourself, is that realistic? Am I going to get that? Or is it going to be an investment as you were saying, looks really appealing up front? You find yourself 2 years in, and you know you're struggling to get any sort of rental income at all.
You're not in control of them, are you?
Not at all. No.
You're not in control. When you buy residential property, you have got absolute control. Of course, it is put together as an investment, so obviously the management company is there, etc. But at the end of the day, if you're not happy with how they're managing your investment, then laters, I'll get somebody else to do it. Whereas the ones that you're talking about, which I think is like hotel investment,
hotels,
it's just so difficult.
It's
just so difficult to have any element of control, and sometimes the contracts are a little bit vague, a little bit red tapey, and you hear about buyback options, and you know you want something that you can just get into. If you life changes, personal circumstances changes, so you want an easy out. If you have to, if you think, oh my lord, I want to keep it, but I've got to sell it for whatever reason, right on the open market, sold. Exit strategy, that's one really
thing
important,
you've got to consider all the time. But what's the north of the city centre going to be like? Very easy to predict. Much safer investments. You've got a much more secure investment moving forward, so definitely go down the residential route, certainly.
Agreed. Thanks for listening to the Property Talk podcast. You've been listening to Esther and Nicholas. If you would like to get in touch or ask questions directly, the details will be in the description.